So this cat is my spirit animal. I spent dozens of hours thinking about how I could write an engaging and memorable, maybe hilarious talk for you today without divulging anything personal or delicate or vulnerable, because like this cat, I don't like the feeling. Now, it is not lost on me that I actually volunteered to speak about embracing discomfort and at the same time try to avoid it. But after a very late night of debating on if I should start here today by asking you to close your eyes and think about your first childhood memory when you felt uncomfortable, or if I should actually make you uncomfortable by inviting you to ask a stranger something personal, I decided instead to start with one of my most favorite things on earth, memes, and a very simple question. What is discomfort taking from you right now? In Bonnie Ware's book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, she wrote that the most common regret that she heard from her patients was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Why don't we live the lives that take courage? One of the reasons may be is that humans are hardwired to look for social acceptance and avoid rejection. Acceptance requires us to adhere to social norms, which is how we've survived as a species over human history. But when living a life true to ourselves requires us to fall outside of those social norms, we may feel apprehensive in making decisions that align to our authentic self. Even in low-risk circumstances, acceptance can cause considerable stress. Researchers studying Gen Z, so those are folks born between 1997 and 2012, found that the pressure to be perfect is a cause of stress for over a third of that generation. In a separate study looking at social rejection, researchers found that folks experiencing rejection, like a romantic breakup or even being excluded from a simple game of Frisbee, showed increased activity in 2 areas of the brain that relate to physical pain, suggesting that the 2 experiences may not be all that different. So it puts the new light on the phrases hurt feelings or a broken heart. So embracing discomfort is not only an act of courage, but also one of strategy. I'm here today to suggest that we can become experts at overcoming discomfort, living more fulfilled lives, and being better versions of ourselves by modeling after the dandelion. So why dandelions? Dandelions are part of a powerful species of plants called pioneers. Pioneer plants are nature's ultimate adapters. They are the first to thrive in barren or bare or open areas, and then they initiate simple biological communities. They take root in volcanic ash, they cling to life on bare rock faces, and then they improve circumstances for plants that are more complex and larger for them to grow. In other words, they traverse difficult and new terrain, thrive there, and improve conditions for those not yet there. A great model for humans. So, how do we follow in line? Step 1, establish yourself. Dandelions are not pioneering across the world because they put themselves in certain places. They bloom where they are present, and once there, do what they're designed for. 18 months ago, I lost my job. The field of study and practice that I had become an expert at and been hired to do suddenly became politically charged and eventually illegal. My relationships changed. Values that I thought were shared were left dangling at my feet. I felt a lot like this dandelion, scattered and thinning. But then I was replanted. My boss had the foresight and trust in me to move me to a different area of the organization. She understood what I was designed for, even when I could not see it. For many, many months, I struggled to figure out what I could bring to a team that seemed to have all of the social and political and financial resources they needed to meet our organization's goals. And as a woman who needs to feel needed, being unclear about my contribution was incredibly trying and frustrating. But after time, I understood that my natural way of being was critical to the future direction of that team. I calm And when I could accept my new environment and get busy doing what I'm naturally talented at, that team got better. Step 2, grow in the gaps. Pioneer plants are hardy, can flourish in harsh conditions, and grow and reproduce rapidly because they're able to take advantage of the resources available to them, even in barren areas. They grow in the gaps. We often feel discomfort because we're trying really hard to stay in our comfort zone and not get pushed out into panic. But there's space for growth in between. If we are willing to understand the relationship between safe spaces and brave spaces, we're able to grow. Now, sometimes a controversial topic, safe spaces are places where people's experiences and them as humans are validated and heard. Comfort is offered. No advice is given. People have shared experiences, and it's a place of high trust. The safety that's experienced there helps people navigate fear. Brave spaces offer the opposite. They're places or people or circumstances that require us to reconsider, to try something new. Brave spaces challenge us. They're places of high reward and discovery where we earn new neural pathways and develop new abilities. So, just like this dandelion is flourishing between two concrete slabs, we as humans have to learn how to traverse between safe spaces and brave spaces in order to be able to outpace discomfort and get to growth. We can ask ourselves questions like, what am I doing this week that is scaring me? What can I try that I might actually fail at? And on the opposite end, who can I turn to who will remind me of my strengths? Where can I go to de-stress? We can experience personalized and sustainable growth in the gaps between our safe and brave spaces. Step 3, lay the way. So in barren areas, pioneer plants break down rock, create a thin layer of soil, and add organic matter, improving the conditions for larger plants to thrive. Sometimes we bow out of situations where we're going to be uncomfortable. We think, do I really need to do that? Is the discomfort that I'm about to feel actually worth it? Because I could be happy just how I am. But like pioneer plants, traversing difficult terrain often always benefits us and others, and sometimes many others. The power to get uncomfortable for someone else can be especially meaningful for women. In a Harvard study that was studying competitive negotiations, researchers found that women anticipated more backlash or discomfort in the process than men, but were willing to stay engaged in that process if they were advocating for someone else's salary than when they were advocating for themselves. So the collective benefit of getting uncomfortable can and often does outweigh our personal cost. So, what is discomfort taking from you, and what are you going to take back? A little over a year ago, I spent 4 days floating down the San Juan River. It was an experience. Before this time, I had not been outside for longer than 24 hours. I could not swim. The bathroom situation was surprising. I was terrified. It took my colleagues 2 years of begging me to go on the ship before I said yes. But I did say yes. On the first day, I was scared. I stayed on the big raft with our guides. But by the second day, I learned how to row my kayak. By the third day, I rode Class 3 rapids. I watched a family of mountain goats lead their babies up what seemed to be an impossible side of the mountain while the sun set behind us where we camped. I made friends. I laughed until I cried, and I cried until I laughed, and I let go of a fear that was preventing me from experiencing one of the most beautiful places on earth. Today I stand in awe thinking, what would I have missed if I hadn't gone on that trip? And I wonder, what am I still missing? You can pioneer through your own discomfort. Establish yourself, grow in the gaps, and lay the way for those behind you, and take back your life. Thank you.